For those of you who are doing historic research on a property in Ohio County, West Virginia, and need to get started doing a chain of deed search, whether that's for a National Register of Historic Properties nomination form, a state historic property survey, if you're applying for state or federal grants for a restoration of a building, or you're just interested in knowing more about your property, this video tutorial will walk you through the process of using the Ohio County Clerk's Office online document inquiry search to find deeds. So before we get started, there's some things that you'll need to know before you can search for documents on the Clerk's Office document or inquiry interface. So the first thing you need to know is the most current buyer or the previous seller of that property. So you'll need to know an individual's name if it was sold or bought by an individual. If it wasn't, you'll need to know the buying business's name or the selling business's name. And if you don't have either one of those, you can still search by deed book number and page number. Now, it's important to know that the scanned documents only date back to 1993 on this publicly available interface online. So if the building was sold prior to 1993, you're going to have to go to the clerk's office in person to start your search. But this online document inquiry search is useful if that property has been sold since 1993 to get you started. So to make this easy, we're just going to use an example and walk through using this example. So we're going to take a look at the old Wheeling, Ohio County Public Library building. You can see that there on the top, 1911, right after it opened. It's currently called Bennett Square. The library moved to its current place in 1973 and sold off the library building. So what we do know about this old library building is the address. That's 2100 Market Street here in Wheeling. What we don't know is the current owner, so we don't know who the buyer or the grantee on the most recent deed is. And we don't know who the previous owner was, so we don't know the seller or the grantor on the most recent deed. And we don't have a deed book and page number record for this transaction either. So how do we get started doing that? Where can we go to find the current owner to get started on this deed search? So the answer to that is the Ohio County Assessor's website. The Ohio County Assessor has an online property record search at ohio.wvassessor.com/search.aspx. You can also just go to their homepage and then click on this property record search field here, and it'll bring up this page here for the property record search. So how do we find the current address or the current owner? We're going to be looking at this parcel address. So the parcel address is typically just the street address. So we have that the address of the old library, 2100 Market Street. So we'll put that in that parcel address field and then click the search button here. When we do that, another box will pop up underneath that search button, and now we can see here that the owner name of that property is McKinley Properties, LLC. But if we look to the left of that, we see this parcel ID field. There's a big number here under that parcel ID, and if we click on that link, it'll give us additional information about this property. So here, once we click on that field, now you see we've got a lot more information here, but we still have our current owner, McKinley Properties, LLC, and then we have a sales history here. So we've got some sales dates here, but more importantly, we have a book number and a page number. So we have two sets here, actually, book 776, page 673, and book 768, page 291. So now we have both the current owner and the book and page number of the last two sales of the property here. So we can take that information and go back to the Ohio County Clerk's website. To get to the online document inquiry search, it's just ohiocountyclerk.com/document-inquiry.html. So before we get started, we need to make sure we're using a compatible browser. So the recommended browsers are Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Microsoft Edge. If you're not using one of those browsers, not all the features of the document inquiry search may work. So make sure you're in one of those browsers, and then to get started, you'll just click on this the screenshot of that document inquiry search. So So once you click on that, a new pop-up window will open with that interface, the document inquiry search interface. Now we can take our known information, our current owner, McKinley Properties LLC, and the deed book numbers, and we can start searching for the property. So if you look at the top of the page here, it's set up by default to search by individual. We don't have an individual, we have a business name. So if we just click anywhere on that field where it says individual, a drop-down menu will pop down. And now you can see we can search by individual, we can search by firm, we can search by book and page number. So in this case, we're going to select firm. So we'll just click on that field there in that drop-down menu. And now instead of searching by first and last name, we're asked to search by a firm name. So we'll enter McKinley Properties LLC in there. And now one strange thing about this interface is that there's no search button. So we actually have to physically hit the enter button to initiate the search on this field. So if we click that enter button, the screen will go gray and you'll get this little box that'll say thinking as it's accessing the database looking for records that match our search inquiry. And then once it's finished searching the database, all of those results will come up. And you can see here we've got 18 hits on McKinley Property LLC. Some of these are deeds. We've got a deed of trust, a release. So to sort these 18 items, we can click this document field at the top of the page. And doing that, it's just going to sort all of those documents in alphabetical order. So now we can see the first one's assignment A, next one's credit line C, and then we have our deeds after that. So if we just scroll down the side of the page here, we can scroll until we find all those deeds. So here we can see we've got 3 deeds here. So how do we know which one is ours? If we look at these descriptions, they're not really very useful for us because we have a street address, but the descriptions are the legal descriptions of properties. So they outline the boundaries of the properties, but they don't necessarily tell you anything about the physical address. So this is where we're going to look at our known information here, and we'll be looking at this book and page number. So we've got book 776 at page 673 here, and there's a match here on our deeds in that book page column. So if we click anywhere on that row, you'll see that additional information will pop up at the bottom of the page. So now we can see here's our grantee, McKinley Property LLC. So this is when they received that property, when that property was conveyed to them. And we have several grantors here, and you can even see it scrolls down further. So to find a little bit more information about that, we can click on this image link here to the left of all the rest of the information, and that'll actually bring up a scanned version of that document, the deed. So one thing you need to know about these deeds, when you pull them up, it will say the stolen copy on there. That's just because this document inquiry search, it's just for information. If you want an actual copy of this deed, you can't download these without going and getting access at the county clerk's office. So if you have a login, you can do that. Otherwise, you need to go to the county clerk's office and pay for a copy of these. You can't print these or download these off of this without having that login access, but you can use this just to get your information for your chain of deeds. So if we look at this pop-up window, we now know we're on the right page because our page numbers match here, book 776, page 673, and that matches our known information here. Typically, the first clause of a deed will outline the grantors and the grantees. So here we see we have several grantors here, and then we have the one grantee, McKinley Properties LLC. So there's our grantee and the grantors. The other thing that'll be outlined in this first paragraph is the date of sale. So here we see that was sold April 29th, 2007, and that should match that information that you saw at the Ohio County Assessor's Office as well. One thing about deeds is there's a legal description of the property. This just outlines the property boundaries. It won't necessarily tell you anything about the building itself. A deed only conveys what's known as real property, and that's the land and everything that sits on it that's more or less permanent in nature. So it will include any structures or buildings on the property, but it more than likely will not ever mention those properties in that legal description. So deeds can give you a little bit of insight to when a building might have been built based on when that property was sold, or when an addition was built based on when that property sold, but it won't tell you the actual information in it. Now, what we haven't found yet is when this property was conveyed to these grantors. So when they were the grantees, that's the information that we're looking for to continue this chain of deeds. So to do that, well, you can see here at the top of the page, this says 1 of 11. That means there are 11 pages in this document. So we're going to look to see if we can find when this property was previously conveyed to the grantors, when the grantors were the grantees. So if we click on this next button here, it will pull up the next page. You'll now see that we're on page 674 instead of 673. And in this paragraph here, we can see that there were 2 previous sales of the property outlined there. So we can use this paragraph to find our next search items. So if we look at the bottom of that half of that paragraph, it says that the property was previously conveyed to James David Carnell on April 6, 2006, and it was recorded in Deed Book 768, page 291. And you can see that book and page number matches our previous information there. But if we look closely, it says that this was a conveyance by a quick claim. So a quick claim is just when somebody gives up their legal interest in that property and they're transferring the ownership. So this just means he was a previous grantee and he's giving up his rights to that. So it goes to the rest of those people that were outlined. So if we look at the top part of it, we have this property being transferred to the grantors that we saw. So they're now the grantees. And that was done February 6, 2004 in book 748, page 577. So this is new information for us, and we can add that to our known information, book 748, page 577. So now that we've got that new information, we're going to want to record all of that, the previous grantees and grantors, the previous sell date, and then the next deed book and page book number. Then we can go up and click on this X to exit that scanned document and go back to the document inquiry search interface. So now we've got our book page and number. So instead of searching by business, by that firm, now we want to search by book and page. So we'll just click that field again, that firm, to bring that drop-down box up again. And we'll be clicking on book and page instead of firm this time. So once we do that, now you can see it's asking for the book number and the page number. So we can enter that 748 and 577. And then once again, we're going to have to click that enter button in order to initiate that search. So once we do that, all the results will pop up. So if you look here, we've got book page number. These all match that, but we've got all of our grantors here, and we've got a couple of grantees as well if we look down in this information here. But since all of these are related to this book, the same book and page number, we can click on any one of these image links here and it'll bring up that same scanned document. So if we click on one of those, now we can say we're in books 748, 577. We've got the deed conveyed February 5th, 2004. And now we have some new information here. This was the from the Testamentary Trust of Nick Carnell. So that's new information for us. And then if we click the next button, it'll take us to the next page. And in that page, we can see that it was conveyed to Nick Carnell. It was conveyed to him by the Board of Education of the County of Ohio on the 7th day of March, 1978, and recorded in deed book number 581 at page 346. So now this is our new information where we can continue that search with that chain of deeds. So this deed was recorded prior to 1993, so it's not going to be available to us online. So the next step is to call the Ohio County Clerk's office at 304-232-3656 to make an appointment to visit the office. The Ohio County Clerk's office is at the City County Building. It's on the second floor. That's at 1500 Chaplin Street. So once you're there, once you've made an appointment, you can take your known information for your historic property and continue your search by asking for the last known deed book number. So in our case, we'd be asking for deed book number 581. And then when you've been given that book, you can look for your page number, and you can record the prior grantors and grantees, the conveyance date, and the next set of deed book and page numbers. Then you can ask for the next book and continue your chain of deeds search that way. So if you have any questions about creating a chain of deeds or looking up deeds in Ohio County, West Virginia, you can call the Ohio County Public Library at 304-232-0244 and ask for the local history department, or you can email history@ohiocountylibrary.org.